In this episode,
Whack 'em!
the MythBusters are busting out.
Count on getting very, very cold.
Can they escape from Alcatraz?
Quack, damn you.
Science or quackery?
I want you to do this. Got it?
Does a duck's quack echo? And out of their skulls, have we all been injected with mind control chips?
I feel perfectly normal now.
Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage
I always enjoyed seeing Adam in pain.
Oh!
and Jamie Heineman.
Jamie wants a big boom.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
Feel kind of sexy.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
The spoon proves mightier than the bars that supposedly escape-proof Alcatraz prison. The men the walls couldn't
It's
hold.
Alcatraz's greatest mystery. What happened to these men? Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, Clarence and John, bank robbers and escape artists. One night in June 1962, they busted out of the rock and dropped off the face of the earth.
Whatever their fate, the three convicts have apparently accomplished a feat that many have tried with no success.
The authorities presume the three drowned, but the myth says they got away clean on a homemade raft. 40 years later, Jamie and Adam aim to prove it might have happened.
Well, you know, Adam, we're based in San Francisco doing a show about myths. So obviously we have to tackle the myth about the escape from Alcatraz.
That three prisoners in 1962 built a raft out of raincoats and got off the island?
Yeah. Did they actually do it? Was it successful? Where did they go?
According to folklorist Heather Joseph Witham, this story has endured because people often cheer for the underdog.
The idea is, David against Goliath, the little man really winning out over the concrete authority, the faceless, nameless concrete authority.
America's worst were caged in Alcatraz's 9x5 cells, cold as stone, perched high above the currents that chain the island. Officially, no one ever escaped and lived to tell, though in its 29 years, 34 prisoners tried, and as many as 11 died in the attempt. Adam and Jamie will follow the most famous escape attempt of all. It began here, in these cells.
They painstakingly fashioned dummies of plaster with hair of paintbrush bristles to stand in for them during cell check, while they covered an escape hole with a cardboard grill. All of this was within easy visual range of the guards in the gun galleries.
Alcatraz had begun to crumble. Morris and the Anglins were all able to chip through ventilation grills using spoons.
I believe that this one is a MythBusters special, so you feel like squirming through the hole?
Sure, why not? You think you'll fit?
I think I'll fit. I'm not so sure about you.
Let the breakout begin.
I don't know.
Seems beer and fast food wasn't on the menu at Alcatraz. Incredibly, the escapees found themselves in an empty service shaft.
You know, Jamie, note to myself, if I'm ever designing a prison, I don't think I would ever design it with a huge, secret, unmonitored walkway behind every cell.
Leaving dummies behind in their beds, night after night, the plotters climbed undetected into this service corridor.
I think I tweaked my back.
From there, they climbed the pipe's 3 floors to the cell block roof.
This is where it all happened. This is actually where our story begins, Jamie. This is where they got to with all their equipment and actually built the rafts over a period of months.
Prisoner Alan West was in on the plot. He told the FBI the trio had managed to steal more than 50 raincoats and, undetected up on that rooftop, turned them into a pontoon raft.
You whisper and everybody can hear it. You can't like drop a single bolt or nail. You can't kick a piece of wood without everybody on the cell blocks hearing you do it. Imagine that every night for months in pitch black.
The night they were finally ready, the three broke out through this vent onto the rooftop, then climbed 50 feet down to the ground.
They went down about here. The original pipe's been removed, but we do know that they went across underneath the water tower and down to the shore on the side of the powerhouse over there. It's a lot of distance to cover in the middle of the night with all that equipment, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
The swirling tidal currents around Alcatraz were more feared than any wall. But at the water's edge, Morris and the Anglin brothers pumped up their raft, jumped in, and disappeared.
The escape triggered the greatest manhunt in San Francisco's history, as agents of the FBI, Coast Guardsmen, Highway Patrol, sheriff's deputies, and local police join in the search.
Jolene Babiak lived on the island when the escape happened. Her father was associate warden at the time, and she's written 3 books about Alcatraz.
Do you think that they made it?
Well, they could be here today on the tour, but I doubt it.
Alan West told the FBI the plan was to paddle the raft north to Angel Island, then onto the mainland. Jolene thinks that was optimistic at best.
I don't think there was any physical way they could ever get to Angel Island, and if that was their goal, it was not well thought out, because when you get in the San Francisco Bay, it's not about currents, it's about tides, and if the tide is going out the gates, so are you.
It seems too simple an end. Frank Morris was no fool. He spent his life in and out of reform schools and prisons. But he also happened to have an IQ of 133. He knew how to escape, and he must have known about the dangers of the bay.
So you think they were clever enough to have counted on the tides, using them to their advantage?
Well, they were clever about the whole thing from the get-go, like, how they got the materials in the first place, where they assembled it, right under the nose of the guards. It was all very well planned out. So it's only logical to assume that they gave a fair amount of thought to the currents as well.
Maybe Morris figured a way to ride the feared tides to freedom.
It does look like it's more aggressive on this side.
He could watch the ebb and flow and plan his route for months. The MythBusters don't have that long, but they do know a shortcut.
Joe, grab onto the pylon. Come on. Oof.
The Bay model was built in the mid-50s to test the environmental impact of a proposed development in San Francisco Bay. It's a perfect scale model covering 2 acres and replicates a full day's tidal movements in just under 15 minutes.
If we took a small model boat and put this in here at Strategic Point, would it actually tell us what would happen to that boat in the currents?
I think that it would. Up until the year 2000, it was primarily a scientific research and engineering facility where many, many experiments from A to Z were conducted daily. And I think it replicates very accurately the tides, currents, motions of the bay.
The guys know the high tide had just turned when the escapees hit the water.
I'll just wait for the signal.
In the compressed time of the model, that's due in about 2 minutes.
The water's having an effect on me. I don't know what it is.
Once again, the MythBusters' professionalism is winning admirers.
Oh, we're good. Drop it. Nicely done.
Remember, the myth says Morris and the Anglins were heading north to Angel Island. The current tells a different story. The raft is heading west in a hurry.
We're escaping Alcatraz at Mach 1.
No wonder they didn't find them. They're probably in Japan by now.
Stand by, Jamie.
Okay.
Release it, Jamie.
The same thing happens every time on this tide.
There they go. Now the current catches them.
The raft is always washed west to the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's doubtful the escapees could paddle against it for long.
Basically, there's no way, I think, they'd make it to Angel Island, though.
The guys think Morris was smart enough to work that out. So, despite what they told other prisoners, maybe Angel Island was never in the plan at all.
I think they actually took advantage of the currents and got on them as a like a river headed towards the Golden Gate Bridge, and specifically the north side of the Golden Gate Bridge, where they could easily make it to shore.
The Mythbusters have hatched a new theory and a new plan. Forget Angel Island. They're going to see if they can build a raft and paddle across the tide to reach land around the Marin headlands.
Jamie, what do you think our chances of success are?
100%.
100%?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
No doubt about it. We can pretty well count on getting very, very cold.
Jamie sounds like he's getting cold feet. But before he does, the guys have a date with some webbed feet. Another bird-brained myth to bust. Could it be true? Or have Adam and Jamie gone quackers?
Anything to say to the ducks back home? So, Jamie, what are we working on? Why are there ducks pooping all over your desk?
Well, the myth is that a duck's quack does not echo.
That sounds kind of simple.
Well, I guess we'll figure out a way of making it complicated, won't we?
This really is an internet story. Not even a story, just a little factoid. And it generally comes out on these internet lists of facts that are very odd. In the past, they would have circulated as Xerox lore or fax lore.
The boys will take the lore into their own hands down on the farm.
Adam, don't let their looks deceive you. These are actually quite deadly.
If anyone can answer this myth, it should be Jim Reichard, part of America's oldest duck farming family. The Reichardts have been listening to ducks quack for more than a century. But there's one thing they haven't heard.
Jim, have you heard of the myth that a duck's quack will not echo?
I've never heard that. I've grown up on the ranch, you know. I've never had anybody ask me.
It's pretty hard to ruffle Jim's feathers. He's agreed to help the Mythbusters with some test subjects.
I asked for volunteers this morning, and I came up with a couple, you know.
Meet Bob on the left and Roy.
And going in from this
All right,
side.
you go down that side. I'll walk him down this way.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
That wasn't so bad.
So, they've got their ducks in a row. Now they need a man who can catch an echo. That would be him now. Roger Schwenke is an acoustician, which means he knows a thing or two about noise.
Roger, have you heard the myth about whether a duck's quack echoes?
I have heard that myth. Mostly I see it in these lists of factoids and jokes that you get in emails.
Roger's agreed to help catch a duck's echo. The science is simple enough. Sounds are just vibrations in the air. An echo happens when those vibrations hit something and bounce back.
So one of the challenges I have for you is we're going to use a tie clip mic as the trigger mic to start the recording, and we need to attach that to the duck.
Duct tape.
That microphone acts as a trigger. It'll hear Bob quack and switch on the main mic a few yards away. That will record the initial quack, then listen for echoes bouncing back. The whole shooting match plotted by a computer.
You know what happens to ducks that don't cooperate, huh?
Yeah. Got it.
That was a test. You can see the initial shot from the starter's pistol is the peak on the left, and the smaller bumps after it are the echoes coming back. The system works. Now for the ducks.
I'll tell you guys to be quiet because any sound will start the computer recording, and then you need to silently induce the duck to quack.
Can you quack?
Silently induce a duck to quack.
Look me in the eye and quack. Quack. Come on, boy. Quack. Quack.
All right, see if they're ready.
Are you guys ready?
Don't mess with me, duck. When I say quack, you're gonna quack, right? I'm the boss here. Don't give me any beak.
Quiet.
Give them the thumbs up.
It's like he's trying to collect a loan from the duck. Duck Loan Collection Agency. We want to talk to you about some outstanding feed.
Who'd have thought ducks get cold feet?
Oh boy.
There's nothing but wind noise. Clearly, Bob's got stage fright.
I want you to do this. Got it? Quack. Quack, damn you.
Done.
I'm gonna swap him out with the other one.
All right, I'll bring him over to you.
Bob's out. Roy's in. But a funny thing happens in the changeover.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
bringing them together.
Yeah.
They just needed someone to talk to. Seems obvious now. The MythBusters are back in the hunt.
That looks like a quack.
Astonishing how well that works.
There's something else astonishing. They've got the quack, but they don't have an echo. Not a one. But then, there's not much here for the sound to bounce off.
In terms of trees and plants and so on, you don't get very much of an echo, certainly not off of leaves.
Roger thinks if there were any echoes, the background noise drowned them out.
Sweetheart duck.
To prove that, and bust this silly myth once and for all, Bob and Roy will have to go hi-fi.
Okay, that's really cool.
Meyer Sound makes top-of-the-range concert speakers. Roger's their staff scientist.
Hi, guys.
They plan 2 experiments at the lab. First, to capture a crystal clear quack with no echo. Then, they'll record Bob and Roy in a room that does echo. The computer should show if there's a difference. To get the clear quack, they'll use an anechoic chamber. It absorbs echoes by trapping sound vibrations in baffles on the walls and ceiling.
All right, let's take them in the chamber.
There we go.
Bob and Roy are game.
I noticed there's a hole in the screen. Maybe I can goose the duck.
Quack!
Nothing. Bob and Roy have wised up.
Jamie, I have an idea. We get underneath the platform and we stay there for like a full minute or two, and then we both pop up on both sides of them.
A duck ambush. It's risky, because if this doesn't work, Jamie and Adam will look really stupid.
Anything? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Peep.
Not a peep.
It's all starting to look like a high-tech waste of time. When, for no apparent reason, Bob and Roy get chatty.
Got something.
It's a pristine quack. And it turns out there is something different about it after all.
Well, I never, he's saying.
It's a series of exponentially decaying impulses, which looks almost exactly like room reverberation.
This is the exact moment Jamie is blinded by science.
Have you been paying attention?
What they've found is that when you plot it on the computer, The quack looks exactly like an echo. And that could explain the origins of the myth.
Its echo might actually sound just like its quack. It might blend together for you.
So you might be hearing an echo, but think you're still hearing the quack. Time to crank up the second experiment in the echoey room. Hopefully the computer can tell the difference.
You ready to quack for science?
Okay, quiet please. Go. Got it.
You did really, really good.
Good job.
No, you did excellently.
Finally, Bob and Roy have produced on cue. This cavern of a warehouse is perfect for echoes, if there are any. The moment of truth has arrived.
Okay, so you want to see our quacks? So here's the duck quack that we recorded, and I think this initial part here is the quack.
Yo, well, does that mean it echoes?
You know what? It's just hard to tell.
Really?
The reverberation looks just like the quack.
You'd think the combined brains of man and machine would be more than a match for Bob and Roy. But somehow,
Ready?
once again, they've frustrated science. And for one final time, they'll have to sing for their supper. Roger knows the echo is there somewhere.
Got it.
And sure enough, amid the techno-babble, at last he finds what he's looking for.
This series of decaying impulses is the reverberation, definitely the echo.
Definitely the echo.
MythBusted.
Don't be so hasty. MythBusted, let's go home. See ya.
They've conclusively shown that although a quack's echo might be quiet and tricky to hear, it does exist.
So, how does it feel to be riding the absolute crest of urban myth busting?
Busterific.
And for their contribution to modern science, Bob and Roy have earned a rent-free Bayside home for life.
Well, what do you think? Looks good? All right.
Where were all those quacks when we needed them?
Jamie and Adam are immersed in the Alcatraz escape. Did Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers drown, or could they have gotten away on a raincoat raft? To find out, the MythBusters will make a raft and attempt the crossing themselves. Some living history will help their cause.
That's the raincoat.
So this fabric now is very fragile. If I tried to unroll it, it would deteriorate, it would fall apart.
This brittle old raincoat was actually part of the escapees' raft. For some reason, they left it behind on the cell block roof. It's kept in archives at the Maritime Museum and may yet give up a few secrets.
And you can definitely see the glue on the edge of the seam here, contact cement.
The tiniest hints will help them make their own raft more authentic.
Yeah, it definitely looks, like a military-style raincoat that I've seen.
2 paddles were also recovered.
Look at that, that's the real thing.
It actually kind of sent chills up my spine to see these things. You know, there was somebody in a dark kind of alcove somewhere out there on Alcatraz that was secretly pulling these materials together and building this stuff, and we actually, handled it.
They've reached back 40 years to touch the myth. But can they get their hands on the right materials today?
Well, that's the American one.
Like, as long as we scuff it up with a little sandpaper,
Yeah.
contact cement ought to hold all the stuff. That feels much better.
Seems they could rename this place Alcatraz Escapes Are Us.
40 regular.
There are hats, too.
Yeah.
It's too big.
Yo, what is up? Peace to your mother. I'd say we did pretty good in there.
Everything we need.
And a bunch of stuff we don't.
Back at the shop, it's down to work. First, the easy part, making the paddles based on FBI drawings.
One prison escape paddle. Jamie, you want to come over here and bend over? I think we could have a little prison hazing ritual. Whack!
There's a bigger pain in the backside ahead. Now our wannabe jailbirds have to make the raft.
I actually am feeling really confident about how this boat's going to do. Of course, the very next cut in the show will be us like flailing in the bay in the dark, freezing and screaming.
They might not even get that far. 2 seconds into construction, and they've discovered their raincoats are PVC, not rubber.
No. Stuff isn't remotely airtight.
The plan is coming apart at the seams.
It's a totally different material. At this point, it looks like I'm not getting off the island. I'm gonna have to finish this life sentence.
Turns out the right stuff is almost never used anymore. But Jamie tracks them down. It's delivered direct to the big house.
This, I swear, this is exactly what they used on the Alcatraz one.
The raft was never found, but according to FBI intelligence, it was made of 3 pontoons. It was 14 feet long and 6 wide. It's going to be a rainwear massacre. The plan is to first cut them into equal panels. Morris and the Anglins used more than 50 coats.
We are on our way to Alcatraz.
According to the FBI, the escapees had access to contact cement in the prison workshop. Jamie and Adam will use the same stuff to glue the panels together into long sheets.
What I was thinking of doing was basically something like this.
Folding it over, okay.
Yeah, see? So you do glue, 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 glue.
Sounds easy, but the glue's becoming a sticking point.
Do a full-on, like 2.5-inch lap.
Why don't we compromise and make it like 2 inches?
Why do you want to do a smaller one?
Because it just is, it's like, it's not really going to help us any. And,
Yes, it is.
I don't know.
It's insurance. I have to insist on this one. It's absolute insurance. You know, it just it.
Make it 2 inches. That's like double what you need.
All right.
And so we'll just each take a table.
To make sure the raft is airtight, each seam needs to be glued, dried, and compressed together. The real escapees did this in the dark and silently.
Wait, was that a guard? No. Yeah, check it out, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at 5. We're just over 6 feet here.
That's big enough for the first pontoon.
Might help.
They just have to roll it up like a rug and seal the ends.
I'm a little worried. It looks a little too good. And it's almost going to be like, no, we swear it was raincoats.
Hey.
The fact that they even made something that was remotely inflatable for a period of time, got it up the roof through the blower, down to the shore and into the water is astounding.
If they get this done, it'll be quite an achievement for the MythBusters, too.
My calibrated eyeball detects no leaks whatsoever. Dude, that's a boat. I'm really impressed with these prison guys. Come on, get in. Hurry up, they're coming.
The last step is to build in the floor. Just a thin skin of raincoat between them and the sharks. But before they do it, there's a distraction no prisoner ever contended with.
It's a little hot.
They're needed for a Discovery Channel photo shoot. They've got to stop playing at bank robbers and start pretending to be stars.
Ow. I don't do makeup. They get near me with some powder and some scissors for my mustache. They're going down.
Well, maybe just a little touch-up for the tough guy. You want to look your best.
Is it okay if I turn this as a tidbit?
No.
No, it's not?
just a little bit. Put it around me.
Yeah, he's tough, all right. It's a good thing they're not in Alcatraz now.
Oh, baby!
Here comes the other lady of the evening. Man, you look so beautiful.
They say these guys can make anyone look good. Sometimes they just have to try a little harder. Mugshot's over. Back on the cell block. The guys are making up for lost time.
Lower your end a little bit.
You drew the line, so you have a good idea about where the whole deal sits, yeah?
Just do it one a section at a time.
It's gonna wrinkle.
Yeah.
They're nearly done. Just a last check for leaks.
There's one. See that? That's a leak.
And a rousing sea shanty to get in the mood.
Oh my God.
According to the FBI, the gang modified an accordion to pump up their raft. As always with these instruments, silence was golden.
I am your father.
Using a ping pong ball, Jamie engineers an ingenious one-way valve so the thing will blow air in but not suck it out again.
Works beautifully.
That's pretty good.
Working.
Yeah.
It took 30 raincoats, but the MythBusters have their raft. They're ready to use it to escape the rock.
Based on the information that we have, I think the raft is very similar to what they had on Alcatraz.
I give us a 60% chance of making it, 20% chance of immediate catastrophic failure, and 20% slow descent into the depths of hell.
Hell will have to wait. It'll be a few days before the tide is right to make their attempt. In the meantime, the MythBusters have another mission. Adam and Jamie are about to go deep undercover, armed with only their wits and a large television production team.
You're really sensitive. You've got a sensitive kind of belly button there, don't you?
They plan to tear the lid right off a scandal that could rock the Western world.
And see if we can determine when exactly the government installs their mind control chips.
These guys laugh at danger if there's a myth to bust. And they know this one must be true. After all, they found it on the internet.
This one comes fresh off the net. The writer of this myth claims that he had had a chip embedded in him while visiting his local hospital. And he was so afraid of this, that this was some kind of mind control chip, and he wanted to check for it. So he went to the local Home Depot and he got a stud finder. And he ran the stud finder over his arm. And sure enough, right there, he detected both electrical activity and metal.
This legend also links up with the idea of alien implants. The idea that aliens are implanting us with some kind of chip to control our minds or to monitor what we're doing and what we're saying.
Stud finders, aliens, and mind control chips. Chuck Hager can help with the first part. He's a stud finder stud.
It sounds like something that might be right out of a science fiction novel.
Chuck designs and makes stud finders.
Well, Chuck, can you give me a demonstration about how the stud finder actually works?
You bet. Let's see what happens. I'm going to place the unit against the wall. Let's turn it on. Now I'm going to slide it, and as I approach the stud, there's the first edge.
All right.
Stud finders are used by builders and home handymen about to punch holes in walls. The finder uses an electrical field to detect wooden studs, metal beams, and wiring hidden behind the surface.
There must be some metal back there.
But can it find a mind control chip buried in someone's arm?
If there were metal embedded under the flesh, in metal sensing mode, again, if the metal were large enough and not too deep, we could certainly sense that.
Adam and Jamie will be counting on that back at the American Red Cross. They're still answering questions.
The name Kennedy was not mentioned, nor were any other political officials.
No questions about my political affiliations, not that I could determine.
In fact, the only questions were health-related. The guy's cunning plan is to give blood, and everyone is screened before making a donation.
Oh, that's nice. Wow.
They can't drop their guard. According to the myth, the IV needle they are about to receive could well contain a mind control chip.
You can proceed, but we're watching you.
Okay.
Before going undercover at the Red Cross, the MythBusters needed to be Jedi Masters of the Stud Finder. Jamie's making a builder's nightmare, a wall with more studs than a Saturday night, wiring in between, and a sprinkling of microchips.
So I'm supposed to use these things to try and find the wood, the metal, the conduit, and the microchips, hopefully? This is like a big grown-up version of Battleship. That's cool. You're messing with me. I'm trying to work it out, but I'm not happy about it.
Adam's map is pretty close, but he still hasn't found a microchip. And there's a nasty black hole top left.
Come on around and
Can I come check it out? Interesting. It's funny that, like, yeah. That's it. That's what I couldn't see.
And you didn't pick up any of the chips as far as I can tell at all.
No, none of these showed up as a hot spot.
There's too little metal in a chip to show up through a wall, but Adam's hoping they can be detected through flesh. This gel replicates human tissue.
P.U. That's rank. Woo! I'd really like to see someone come across this and try and piece together for themselves why it exists. It does seem to be picking up this chip over here. They're definitely picking up, hints of the chips. Some of them pick them up better than others, and the bone.
But stud finders are designed for use on solid walls. Wobbly flesh gives plenty of false readings.
No, we're just trying to find the vein. It's almost there. Are you okay? Want some juice?
What the guys really need is some practice looking for chips under living flesh. Microchipping seems far-fetched, but responsible pet owners have been doing it for years.
And the idea behind the microchip is to make a kind of permanent identification of that animal that can't get lost or worn away like a tag could.
Less than 1 in 7 pets lost in America are returned to their owners. These tiny chips act like barcode. They're read with a radio frequency scanner. The ID number is registered to the owner.
Is it possible to actually exert like a radio frequency on this chip to control the mind of the animal? Like you could push the stop ripping the curtains button and the don't pee in the corner button?
Free of mind control, Bethany the dog is being chipped today. She's kindly agreed to also let the MythBusters scan her. The chip is inserted with a hypodermic needle.
And the needle goes in. Once the microchip is placed, we want to make sure that it still works. And so we'll use the scanner to scan right over that area, and we get the unique identification number again.
That's great.
Now, it's only meant to be found with a radio frequency scanner. But can the chip be located by a stud finder's electrical field?
I'm getting a little blip, actually, right over the site.
There you go.
I think I found it. Yeah, right about there. Yeah.
Everyone's happy. And armed with their new chip-finding skills, Jamie and Adam are ready to spring their surprise back at the Red Cross.
We want to make sure that we're starting out with no mind control devices embedded in our arms already. So we're going to use a stud finder. Here you go, Jamie.
If there are mind control chips being dispensed here, it looks like the game is up. All clear. It's time to make their donation.
A little sting. Here we go. That's not so bad.
Common sense says the Red Cross is far more interested in collecting blood than brains, particularly in the case of these two mines. But Jamie and Adam have put their heads on the block in the name of myth-busting. Could they pay the ultimate price?
I don't notice anything at all. I feel perfectly normal now. Everything feels great. Life is good. The world is in perfect order.
That's Adam's mind in normal, out-of-control mode. And any attempt by the government to bring it some order seems to have failed. Those stud finders aren't finding anything.
It would seem that their technology is far more advanced than I previously suspected, and that I'm riddled with microchips.
Or maybe there are none. What do you think?
That's right, that is a third option. Didn't even occur to me.
Anytime there's a story...
The Red Cross's Becky O'Connor has heard her share of ridiculous stories about blood donation.
So you categorically deny it?
I do categorically deny that there is anything left behind when you make a blood donation.
The Red Cross always needs new blood donors to help save lives. Less than 5% of eligible Americans donate.
I would think that if we were actually somehow controlling people, we probably wouldn't have a shortage, because the first thing we might do is encourage them to come in more often.
I really think that's one of the sillier myths that we could have run across.
I think we should look for a couple more interesting myths to dispel, so, hopefully more people will do this.
The MythBusters have come through with minds intact, a giving glow, and myth busted. The night of June 11th, 1962, 3 desperate men break out of Alcatraz and trust their lives to the black water. They are never seen again. Frank Morris, Clarence Anglin, and his brother John.
You look funny.
You don't?
In fact, Jamie and Adam are wearing what the escapees would have been on the night they broke out. Dressed like this, could the 3 have paddled their raft made of raincoats to safety? Tonight, the MythBusters will find out. The FBI files say the escapees were aiming for Angel Island, but the MythBusters will test their own theory, that they were smart enough to use the outgoing tide to carry them to the Marin Headlands. Of course, there were 3 in the real escape attempt, so young Will Abbott has been drafted from the workshop to be their partner in crime.
It's gonna be a whole other world, not to mention the shock of the cold, cold water.
Just remember, kid, if it doesn't kill you, it just makes a great story later on.
Oh, hell yeah.
Will's about Frank Morris's weight. He'll wear a buoyant wetsuit so he can immediately help the guys if things go wrong.
Just so that we can communicate for emergency situations, this means I need help. This is not hello.
Okay.
This means I'm okay, everything's all right. All right?
The guys will also wear strobe locator lights.
Well, we'll get you a battery on that just as soon as we can.
Could be a good idea.
On the northwest edge of Alcatraz, the tide is rushing out at more than 3 knots. The water just over 60 degrees. The wind about 5 knots. Those conditions are very similar to what faced Morris and the Anglins. And remember, they are presumed to have drowned.
Dead or alive, I imagine that the 3 escapees would get a kick out of the fact that we are getting into a boat and retracing their steps for an entertainment show.
I can only imagine what the convicts were saying when this was occurring. I guess nobody will ever know. But I'm pretty sure they weren't talking about how nice the view was.
They're in position just off the spot where the escapees took their chances. Like them, the MythBusters have no idea if their raincoat raft will float.
You and me, 4 and F with Will in the middle. That puts the lightest weight at the highest
Okay, we're
weakness.
in the same.
It's cold, it's dark, and it's time to go. Paramedics and a trained lifeguard are standing by.
Got it? Got it. Go, Jamie. It's all you, buddy.
Oh, Jamie. You're the man, baby.
The raft's passed its first test, It's holding Jamie's weight.
Here I go, Jamie. Here I come. Oh yeah, we're taking on water. Okay.
Okay, I'll take that. I got it.
I got one paddle.
Okay, we're off.
Good luck, gentlemen. Here we are.
We're escaping!
Somewhere around here, no doubt, Morris and the Anglins celebrated too. They'd escaped Alcatraz. But what lay ahead?
If that raft sank, they were swimming. If they were swimming, they would be in trouble relatively quickly. It was 9 or 10 hours before they were found to be missing. If you're still in the water that long, you're not going to make it.
I have no idea where we are.
Adam, Jamie, and Will are paddling across the tide. If they've miscalculated, the current will sweep them under the Golden Gate Bridge and out to sea.
I can't see Alcatraz because there's some damn big boat in the view. Our legs are falling asleep.
The raft is getting weaker. Every 10 minutes they have to add more air. And the tidal rip is getting rougher. Did the same waves sink the escapees? No signs of them were ever found on land. But the water gave up clues.
The most important thing was a packet of photographs. Also, there were 9 slips of paper with names and addresses of people they were going to contact. Now, unless you're in a life or death situation, you're not going to let go of that bag.
Hey Adam, we can see Alcatraz straight behind us right now. Wow! We've come quite a ways, haven't we?
We have.
After about 40 minutes, they're closing in on the bridge and the shore. If the real escapees made it this far, their spirits would be starting to lift by now too.
This is so cool!
It seemed impossible, but the MythBusters are almost there. Paddling a raincoat raft more than 3 miles across a rushing tide, making landfall just east of the Golden Gate Bridge.
We made it!
If the escapees came ashore here, they'd stepped lightly ever since. There were no stolen cars, no phone calls home. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers disappeared without trace. In doing so, they created a great myth.
There were sightings in New Orleans and Washington, D.C., and I personally had a guy tell me that the Anglin brothers were down in Florida playing golf, and they were not the type of guys that would be allowed on a golf course.
As for the MythBusters, their running days are over.
Beautiful, man.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Jamie.
Given a reasonable amount of intelligence, I think it's entirely possible that they made it. Again, I think the most damning evidence that they didn't is the fact that no one's heard from them since.
Unless they find any specific evidence that these guys, lived happily ever after or something after they got ashore, we won't know whether it was true or not. But we know that it could have been done, which is cool.
Here's something to ponder, though. The tide carried an oar to Angel Island. That tide came directly from the Marin headlands. How did the oar get there, if not with the escapees? The mystery remains.
I'm